All right, so good afternoon. WLA was hosted here in Spokane March 1st through 3rd, and I had an opportunity to meet with vendors, um, our member librarians who attended, and Michael Brown, who was there representing the state board. So, um, Gail, this is probably the most timely of what I learned. They have not changed any of their pricing or anything with the state contract, and they've sent that information to Jude Guzzi at the state library. So if you have the Gale shared database licensing package, you should get a notification from Jude very soon, next couple of weeks, that will outline the state level of subsidy this year. The Gale rep couldn't remember what it was, and it's not particularly easy to find. I couldn't even remember what year that contract was ending. But that information is coming. I also had a chance to speak to Gail about Third Iron and how they work with DOIs, and how if Gail gave more of their content that they create DOIs, more of it would be linkable with Third Iron. And so Hillary Fox suggested that I bring that idea to Magley, who was the she was the cataloger metadata person that Sarah Tarpley introduced us to, and we had kind of a question and answer session with her. I also got to meet Sarah Tarpley at ER&L, and we talked about what we might want to do in the next year for those libraries with the state package, or any Gale content. Maybe we just need a bit of a refresher for new staff, or for faculty who aren't familiar with using the tools. But she was very open to that. So I think we just I probably need to be more mindful that there is that Gale resource with Sarah. So that was good Gale news. I spoke with George from EBSCO, and he said that no one in our group uses like a non-main profile for their like default profile. So the email that you may have received must have been about 2 weeks ago now, saying that low use profiles would be switching to the new interface, should not impact any of us. He gave the example of like BYU had multiple test profiles. They also had like other language profiles. And if you do have a couple of profiles in use in addition to the default one, when they say low use, they really were meaning like less than 10 uses in the last year. And he was not exactly pleased with his IT team that like sent out that email and without like any kind of detailed information about what low use meant or how you might find out if you have such a profile. Um, so yeah, but he did say like if anyone has any issues, you can still contact him to get those switched back. But in all likelihood, very few people will notice that change. So that was the EBSCO news. My conversation with Michael Brown was very much like introductory and excited, kind of like brainstorming. We had spoken about a year ago when we were both new to our roles and didn't know how we could really work together. So we we have a couple of ideas. We're going to meet again. We're going to talk to LLC, but I think we may actually get some movement, and I will be really pushing toward a like alignment of like student experience if the state's going to support something. So looking at how we are authenticating as a state, how we are pulling our user data from CTC link, because like we recently discovered that Pierce's, their query doesn't include preferred name. So there are um, some places where process alignment being kind of dictated from the state level could be helpful to us without adding work. So that will be very interesting. I think as far as WLA goes, also ran into Lynn Carley, who works for Baker and Taylor, and she has additional tools for the audiobooks that were purchased through the state years ago with perpetual access. So if you have that package or that content and you haven't been able to get the new, create the new URLs for those, please let me know. And I will also be sending out an announcement because Lynn has like an Excel spreadsheet that basically creates the URL from the title, and then I don't know. She explained it. It was very noisy. And actually we didn't even get a chance to talk about it until a week later at ER&L, even though we started talking about it at WLA. So so the Baker and Taylor audiobooks, if you need access to those, Lynn Carley is the person for that. So that was WLA. It was nice to connect to see what librarians at different levels are doing, what's going on with, for example, Spokane Academic Campus here in Spokane, because they're very small. They are like a satellite, so they have their own Primo view, but then they're still subject to some of the configuration stuff. So we had kind of a chat about how they manage that relationship with the main Wazoo library. So just some interesting insight on how people work with their Alma Primo environments. As far as ER&L, there were a lot of sessions about AI. There were a fair number of sessions about cybersecurity, which was great. And there was a lot about analytics and data visualization. So, I mean, the AI stuff was kind of, the ones I attended were more of a general introduction to how systems and content librarians can look at when a vendor says, oh, we're using AI, how they can evaluate that. And so there was, the keynote speech was very good. I plan to watch it again to write up a summary for us, kind of a tool. The cybersecurity stuff was interesting. It talked a lot about the move to federated authentication and away from proxied IP authentication. And that is something that I have also kind of had my mind on. So there was a really wonderful presentation by Coastal Carolina and Ohio State Library and the Open Athens folks talking about what their migration and like security has been like since implementing Open Athens. There was also a talk with Florida Virtual Library System and their experience with implementing Open Athens and how it works with their libraries that have different identification providers, whereas our colleges don't have to have different IDPs. Right now, some of the campuses are using Azure, some are using ADFS, all this different stuff, but it's entirely possible with Open Athens for basically a centralized account, basically like myself, to be doing the CTC link identification providing and connecting to Open Athens and then distributing that authentication to our different colleges. Yeah, so Open Athens costs, we wouldn't be looking at having to do, the 34 instances of Easy Proxy that we currently do. And there would be no additional cost as far as like identity provider needs. So EBSCOhost is very willing to talk. And I do know that you guys, Spokane, had Open Athens back in the day. And I think like probably trying to do that on the scale of one school was terrible because it includes multiple types of authentication, which Easy Proxy does not, because it does the federated and it does the like IP, and there's another, and it can do like username, password, whatever that type is called. Plus, it's been a fair few years since you guys had that, and the number of publishers and content providers that are now part of the Open Athens directory is in the several hundreds. And so there are a lot more vendors that have the ability to be Athenized. And so my hope is that basically we could take a look at what all of our institutions are paying for Easy Proxy collectively, and then go to the state and say, this is a huge expense being put on the individual libraries for something that should be like state level. I mean, it's like Panopto or Canvas or anything else. Like if you are a student at multiple institutions or faculty at multiple institutions, you shouldn't have to be trying to log on in multiple different ways and have different kinds of attributes being passed to the vendor. Hosted Easy Proxy is expensive. Open Athens is comparable to that if you are buying it individually. Self-hosted is not expensive, but it is unofficially confirmed that OCLC will not be supporting self-hosted for too much longer. So I'd rather get in front of that like mandatory upsale and make it better for everybody. So that's kind of where a lot of the open well, I mean, of course OCLC said it wasn't going away because they don't want to like scare people too bad. Because if they're like, yep, we're going to stop supporting it, then people will start legitimately looking at what is the difference between hosted OCLC and another authentication option. And yeah, and doing self-hosted, as Olympic found, is it's a vulnerability because it requires that you have open ports. And yeah, the quote for hosted from OCLC is stupid when it comes to institutional individually. And when I tried to talk to OCLC about creating some kind of more sustainable, centralized state package, their solution was to charge us to activate a whack to click and then charge us to implement change everybody to it wasn't like there was no deal. It was just like, these are all the things it would cost. Um, and it's interesting that Seattle is paying so little, Kirsty. And this is one of the I have heard more recently quotes more like 12 to 13,000. Nicole, do you remember what Bellevue was quoted? And there
I
is the crazy
Yeah,
one-time implementation fee.
I don't remember, but I want to say that it was closer to like 5,000 a year. I don't know. I'd have to find the quote again. It was just like such an unbelievably huge number to me that I was just shocked. Again, we have somebody at Bellevue in IT who's willing to help us with these things, and that is not always the case, but the easy proxy that we host, it's just kind of the simplest thing ever. So, yeah. Anyway, but we are
Yeah.
moving towards SSO, which maybe is, I don't know. I don't know where that fits in the conversation.
Well, and with some of our institutions going to SSO, there it it becomes like even better to be able to offer Open Athens, because then those that are using Okta can use Okta, and those that aren't yet, you're still going to get identity provider info, like from CTC Link and from passed from Alma. What's um, what's nice about it is with Open Athens, you can create test accounts and actually like test authentication. So in all of the situations where I have attempted to help you guys troubleshoot electronic resource access issues and I don't have a user account for your institution, I can't really do anything about it. And a lot of times, if you do have a test account, if you start going to SSO or multi-factor authentication, those stop working, or IT doesn't want to create one for you that doesn't have MFA. And so um, being able to create those kinds of accounts for internal like systems support, as well as like if a vendor needs to get in and check to see that, their product is correctly available for your users, it's really cool. I did talk to their software, EBSCO's software as service guy, and before we can even talk about price, we kind of have to get the state level IT on board if we were even going to consider that kind of migration, because they are going to have their own concerns about security and privacy, and data and all of that. So, yeah, it is early stages, but like the appropriate connections and exchanges of information are starting to happen so that we can kind of have those conversations, because you know about half of the institutions, maybe a little more, I think, have a fair amount of IT support for Easy Proxy, but then some of you don't, and you're on OCLC hosted. And if you could pay the same amount and have federated authentication that's far more secure, and have the ability to differentiate access options. Um, we could start doing some pretty cool things as far as providing content to our students. So anyway, but yeah, so I talked to the EBSCO person about Open Athens, as well as attending a couple of those cybersecurity sessions that talked about um, federated authentication. So, and then I think my favorite session, because it is actually something that I can implement and will be cool, but I'd love to know how you guys think we could use it, is um, a librarian like did some JavaScript, like taught herself some JavaScript and used Google Colab to web host it. So it's not having to like run on a locally installed Python instance. And then she tied in with the Alma Analytics API for her institution and created a Google Sheet where she can pull in the counter data and then create data visualizations that she can embed on their website live. So I have been kind of going around in my head trying to be like, okay, well, I could figure out how to schedule API calls to every single vendor for every single institution we have to pull all of that data into one central place. But then, like, how am I going to do data visualizations with it? And that's like a good jillion API calls. But if I can help all of you get sushi going in Alma, then I can just pull one API per institution and get all of the standard reports for, even if it's just like our top 3 vendors or 4 vendors. um, that would be an amazing amount of data to be able to um, share. So that was cool. And she shared out her code and the step-by-step implementation, and I got her card so that she can, like, because when I play with pulling multiple APIs. So yeah, and I am, because we did our sushi workshop in October, I'm gonna go ahead and schedule another sushi workshop here for the next like month and a half, 2 months, for anyone who hasn't gotten it set up or still has ones that are like not working right. So because yeah, if I can get us all sushied up in Alma, we could do a really some cool reporting out. Um, so yeah, that was kind of my favorite uh, session. Now, I do want to share the conference page with you guys. So you guys can go, this is the logged in part, but if you just go to the homepage for it, oh, hold on, I don't want to go to Feedloop. You can go to the schedule, view the program. And if there are sessions on here that you are interested in, let me know, because I have access to all of the recordings. So like I was able to, with this the Google Colab Analytics API thing, download her PowerPoint, which had her full script and all of the links to all the codes and all the other things. So if you check out the program and there's something that you're like, I am super, super interested in this, I'd be happy to connect you with that content. Or, if we get a lot of requests for like the same 1 or 2 sessions, maybe we can like talk about them as a group. And yeah, and there were a lot. So this year on the second morning, they actually did there were, I think, close to 30 pre-recorded presentations that you could view before the conference, and then the presenters were available for Q&A afterward. And those Q&A are still open with those presenters. So you can still reach out to them and get your questions answered. So that was kind of interesting, but also extremely overwhelming, because to have 30 things to try and watch beforehand and then be like, oh yes, I have a question for the presenter. It wasn't even looking at an e-poster or walking past an e-poster and posting a question. It was more than that. So, but it was a cool idea. Um, so uh so yeah, that it was an interesting mix of content that I think really illustrated the trends and what's on librarians' minds right now. And electronic resources librarians tend to be dealing with a lot of the same stuff that our systems are dealing with. So, how we're collecting and analyzing data, how we are um, aligning with institutional goals and showing that, um, how we're dealing with AI, how we're dealing with open access and discoverability. There were a couple sessions that I attended that I thought were going to be I was like, oh, this is cool. I know about this. I'll learn something new. And then I did not. I knew at least as much as the people giving the talk. Um, but it's always one more place where I'm like, okay, well, they're doing this work, so I'll just keep their library website on my watch list to see how they are making these changes or what they're finding their users want. So it's always valuable. And it is a fun location and a fun conference. I fairly catastrophically fell off of a scooter Monday afternoon. And am still recovering, but still attended the Monday night events and all day Tuesday. So uh yeah, scootering near large college campuses is dangerous. Um,
I I've been telling people don't scooter without a helmet. I have a friend with her PhD in psychology, she had her own clinic, whatever. She fell off a scooter. She's got permanent brain damage. She's lost vision in one eye. She's now on disability and living with her parents.
oof. Yeah, um I was trying to follow the rules, so I wasn't riding on the sidewalk, and the road surface is terrible, and those scooters have tiny little wheels and they're very heavy. Um, and yeah, so I could have been much more injured. But
I'm glad you weren't more injured.
um and the hotel was really, really nice, when I hobbled in, and they had limited first aid supplies. But then they got me, that night they got me bags of ice, and they checked in on me every day when I came down through the lobby. So I was like, haha. um but and ultimately I had no symptoms of a concussion, but I did jam up my shoulder and my knees pretty bad. So, um, but yeah, so it was a busy couple of weeks for me kind of getting like a huge amount of information as well as trying to connect dots between our needs and capabilities and what kind of resources are out there, what we can take advantage of for free, what we might need to be looking at in the future with regards to security and sustainability. So I'm looking forward to kind of having a chill couple of weeks. We've got uh, cohort 1, our libkey implementations. I think everybody has the code live in their Primo environments. So if other libraries are interested in taking a look, although Jennifer and Kirsty, Green River Seattle, do you guys live yet?
No, I haven't gotten any response from some of my colleagues about. I'm about to just turn it on over break.
No, we're not live yet. I'm waiting. I have it in a sandbox, and I'm giving librarians a week to play with it and ask me any questions, express any concerns before we go live, which I hope to do so for starting spring.
One question I do have for folks. So I remember from some of the libkey presentations, one of the third iron presenters saying that the read article option that takes people to an HTML version, that is the screen reader friendly version of an article.
I think that was potentially a misspeak on, like, it is the screen reader friendlier. It's still the HTML in the publisher's platform.
Right.
So
yeah, we've got some folks who want the read article option and some folks who say, no, just give us the download article. And none of us use screen readers. So I don't want to make a choice that would potentially impact accessibility for our students without knowing for sure.
well, and the read article does act similarly to direct linking if there's only one source for the content. And if someone has a screen reader, the old process of either clicking into the record or clicking available online and then going through the view it link to the platform would still be the process. And it's annoying because that's a lot of steps. I am thinking about, because I did go to a couple of accessibility sessions, and thinking about reaching out to what's her name? The gal at the state. She and like a team of 2 or 3 others do a lot of testing in CTC Link and Canvas, and I don't think they'd have time to test Alma with and without libkey, or Primo, I guess, with or without libkey. But I was hoping maybe they'd give me a quick tutorial on how to test the various options. Someone mentioned in one of the sessions I went to that a great use of student time, if you do have library students and like you're over spring break or like a quiet time, is being like, hey, figure out how to navigate this without a mouse. So like have someone learn how to navigate things with the keyboard, have someone learn how to use a screen reader software, and then have them do some accessibility checks. There is a really phenomenal resource around accessibility, and now I've forgotten what it's called, but I will definitely be sharing it out, where they have already done the testing on the vendor site of like how accurate is their VPAT and what are the biggest accessibility issues. totally blanking. But yeah, it's a little tricky finding that balance of like keeping the option there, but then also having like 4 different links to download, read, go online, and potentially browse issues contents. So, Nicole, I didn't go to any sessions about libkey. There was only one, I think, that explicitly like mentioned like, oh, libkey, and it was a discussion about implementation, which probably would have been helpful, but I think it conflicted with the accessibility one that I was just talking about that was great. So I may just watch it on demand. But Olympic is live, Whatcom is live, Skagit Valley is live, Bellingham Technical is live. So you can go and see, and Yakima as well. So I think we've got a couple of different versions of the code in those different institutions, so you can kind of see what they look like there. And cohort 2, we're just waiting on Third Iron to tell us that we have, oh, and Bellevue is live. Awesome. So we're just waiting to get the accounts created for cohort 2. And the cohort 3 email went out this morning, but I gave it a pretty long kind of run time before I do anything with it. I want to get cohort 2 at least like contacted and rolling before I do too much on cohort 3. So excited to just kind of continue that work over the next couple weeks. Tomorrow morning, our 10 o'clock meeting is about libkey implementation. It does not matter what cohort you are. If you want to come and chat about your experience. Oh, group policy for libkey Nomad. Anyone?
I guess not, huh? Oh, well.
What is a group policy for libkey nomads?
So every once in a while, I actually listen to my husband when he talks to me about things. And group policy is one of the things. And basically, what it would do is that they could define, like, there are policies for all of the computers in the library classroom. And if they change the group policy of the library classroom, they could have Nomad pushed out to all of those instead of having every single person do it separately. And it
We
first,
haven't done it, but I plan to ask for that.
okay, yeah,
To have
I've
libkey nomad installed on basically the image for all computers on campus.
okay. Yeah, so it's kind of that. And I was looking at it and reading the instructions, and I'm like, this is not information that I have access to edit. It was like, whoa, what is this thing? But yeah, definitely IT it's just IT has 800 things going on, and this is 801. So yeah.
Jennifer, have you taken that step or got a question?
Yeah, we were able to get the browser extension on Chrome and Edge in all of the lab computers. But I mean, the student still needs to go and enable the extension, right? They have to know to go and enable it, and it only lasts for that session. So it's not, I don't know with the group policy that you're mentioning, if that's something where it could be
It would
automatically, I don't know, that would be better
Mhm.
because right now the student really has to know what's going on.
Yeah, and that might be a good follow-up question for Bridget as well, because I do know there's a fair amount of documentation about Nomad that we really haven't dove into because we're not the IT people. So yeah, that will definitely be part of our ongoing conversation though, as all of the institutions kind of get up and going and maybe IT gets more time closer to summer or something. And I have not even actually put it on my machine yet, so I should probably do that. Yeah, so we have LibKey check-in kind of chat tomorrow morning. LLC is meeting this Thursday afternoon. So we may have some update for me to share out about that. Next week, we have a forum on Monday to talk about our inventory processes. I know we did this last spring as well, but it's always nice to check in. I will pull out Naoko's spreadsheets that she shared with us, and we can make sure that the inventory tool that is hosted is still functioning. And if anybody is looking for tips or tricks or wants to try the Shemeketa College method, yeah, we'll see. We'll chat about that next Monday. And then next Tuesday, we have an analytics open call, and I am hoping to have perhaps a prototype of this Alma Analytics to Google Sheet thing to look at. And if not, I'm sure there's many other fun analytics questions that we can answer. So that's the next 2 weeks. If you have anything coming up on your project docket that you would like help with, or you have any ER&L conference sessions that you would like more information on or access to, feel free to reach out. My schedule is a little tight this week, but pretty open next week. So if you need a meeting with me, if you don't have sushi set up for by next Tuesday, it won't really matter. I will try to, I mean, I might have that prototype going, but I'll probably have some analytics information or reports on other areas. I did do the Primo Analytics session that Ex Libris offered a couple weeks ago, and so I'd like to share out about using Primo Analytics. There is a recording from the October sushi workshop. If you go to our main website, whacktoclick.org, I have the workshop recordings promoed like right dead center. So if you click on that little icon, it will take you to the YouTube playlist for the OCLC publishing profile, the what is it? Sushi and something else. What are they? Oh, and letters configuration, that first letters configuration little workshop we did.
Really, talking about the sushi workshop, I think it might be helpful to have sort of a follow-up sushi workshop of once you've got the harvesting set up, what do you do then? Like, how do we make sure that the data that's getting into Alma matches what's in the reports that we can download directly from the vendor websites?
Yes,
what do we do when
spoiler alert, sometimes they don't match, and that is true for everybody. Yeah, I think potentially kind of like another setup sushi workshop, but also maybe like you have sushi, now what? So, well, and some of the problem is not even necessarily Alma, because when the vendors provide their counter reports through sushi, sometimes they're not somehow the ones that are available to you in the admin portal, because we pull sushi hopefully only once a month. Somebody told a vague horror story about having originally scheduled it to pull daily, and I was like, I don't even think that's an option anymore because that would be insane. But you pull once a month, and just in the last year, there have been at least three of our main vendors, almost everyone has had a period of time where their reports were not available on time, or they were available and then it came out after the fact that they were incorrect and there were issues, and so then like they weren't corrected until like subsequent polls months later. So yeah, I don't know why you would think that would be all kind of coming from the same place. And then understanding how, like, what it is that counter is counting and how, like, what Alma is calling it and how they're reporting it, can be its own language. Yeah, because you think and then what iPads calls it, and then the fact that iPads changes their definitions of the questions, and even the Alma out of the box iPads reports then don't match what it is iPads is asking for. So it's good times. But we can dig into whatever you want next Tuesday. I'm always happy to talk analytics. So yeah, nice kind of spring pause to take stock of where you might need a little extra support or want some instruction. Now's the time. Let me know, because I would love to get some workshops on the calendar. My next kind of travel is mid-May. LLC is in Yakima, and then the very next week is Iluna. So I've got from now till then to do whatever you guys need me to do. And then I'll get inundated with way too much information again, and then it'll be summer. Yeah. All right, 10 minutes till 2. Anyone have anything else? I've loved the chat today. I love a nice active chat, especially when we're recording, so we can go back to that. There is our last LibKey open call, so not the training sessions from Third Iron, but our open call from the 26th. Tracy sent an email about it, and I was like, yes, I need to get it on YouTube. And then it didn't happen with all the conferencing. So as soon as we are done with this call, it is going on YouTube. So if you're looking for that before tomorrow's chat, and otherwise, I'm here and available for questions. And have a great week. It seems like maybe spring is starting to happen in earnest, but we'll knock on wood.